The Dream Eaters is the 5th deluxe expansion for Arkham Horror the card game. There were 4 previous products, all starting with the now infamous The. They were The Dunwich Legacy, The Path to Carcosa, The Forgotten Age, and The Circle Undone. You don't need to own these items or even have heard of these products to purchase this one here. But you still need the core game box because it has all of your tokens and some encounter cards which will be reused. Alright, going back to basics, good idea. Arkham Horror the card game is a story-centered experience which is split into various chapters called scenarios. All of these together are called a campaign or a cycle. The core box had a mini-campaign consisting of 3 parts. All the subsequent cycles had 8-part campaigns. They each begin with what is called a Deluxe Expansion, which usually contains the first pair of chapters, followed by 6 more individual scenarios called Mythos Packs. Both the Mythos Packs and the Deluxe Expansion will contain new player cards, but the big box has more player cards, some new encounter sets used throughout the campaign, and additional investigators. You are free to mix and match all your player cards and investigators from all of your products. You don't have to keep them separated. Oh, you're welcome. This is a beginner channel after all, and feel free to ask questions in the comments. This product delivers 95 new scenario cards, which is the most ever in a deluxe expansion, and 56 new player cards, which is the least ever in a deluxe expansion, plus 5 new investigators, which is just about right. If you want a close look at the cards, there is a QR code on the rear that you can scan with a smartphone, which gives you a preview of all the cards in this box, including the investigators and their signature cards, all the player cards, and one side of each scenario card, so you can look at the acts, agendas, and locations without seeing the rear, but all the enemies and treacheries are definitely spoiler side out. The theme as described on the back is that of the Dreamlands, a hidden realm outside the world of waking, a realm of wonder, imagination and nightmares. H.P. Lovecraft wrote many stories set in or referencing the Dreamlands, so there is plenty of source material to draw upon. If this is your first deluxe expansion, you will discover this comes in flimsy cardboard packaging. This is true of all of these products. It is designed to look good on a store shelf and then be disposed of. At the end of each campaign, a product called a Return To box is released, which provides sturdy storage for your whole cycle. These products come shrink wrapped and feel very light. They contain 3 packs of regular sized cards and a tiny Ziploc bag of mini cards for your new investigators. Remember to take these out before throwing the box in the recycling. The reason it all feels so light is that it is mostly air, with this cardboard insert keeping everything rigid. Finally, there is your campaign guide, which is the same page count as the Circle Undone, despite being packed to the gills with new rules. Your standard size cards come shrink wrapped, but look, they have stopped putting the stickers on to tell you which language the cards are. Pack number 1 has a player card back on one side and a player card on the other. Tommy Muldoon's signature bonus to be exact. These are all your player-backed cards. The next pack has a scenario back on one side and a story asset on the other. The final pack has what looks to be a scenario card on one side, but it isn't, and an encounter card face out on the rear. If you're interested in minimizing spoilers, this is how to go about it. Pack 1 is virtually spoiler-free with all the new investigator signature cards and the bulk of the player cards. Anyone of a nervous disposition, grab onto your worry balls or your security blanket now, as it looks like you are getting about 14 new weaknesses. We will explain this more later, but you actually only get 4 new basic weaknesses, 1 copy of each, and these are at the end of the pack, along with another copy of story asset, Randolph the Red-Nosed Carter. Yes, that Randolph. If you want all your player cards, you will need to open pack number 2. Just underneath the second Randolph are 2 Mystic player cards. Well, yes, we did. Cling on to your teddy bear for dear life, as first the baby, then the bathwater, and now the sacred player back have been defenestrated. You can put the rest of that pack away and move on to pack 3, which is your double-sided and miscellaneous cards. Work your way down through the cards until you get to card number 45. Then press on through some act and agenda cards until you get to card 39B, which is a scenario card, below which are those lovely new investigators. The last one is your guardian before you reach the backside of some face-out encounter cards. Wait for it, this is very important. In between Patrice the Survivor and Luke the Mystic is a location card. This is in fact a player card. It is one of Luke Robinson's signature cards, so don't shuffle it in with your scenario cards. We know, right? Those designers have gone flat out crazy. While we've got the cards out, why don't we tell you about the new investigators? One of the most anticipated parts of any deluxe box is taking a look to see what they've done with the new investigators. Because this is an odd-numbered expansion, there are the classic 5 investigators, 1 per class, so no sign of a mate for Lola. All of these are brand new as well, with no more novella investigators showing up. Maybe next time. Although we say new, what we really mean is imported from your previous save game files, which means you may already have a miniature for them for their premium line or included with Mansions of Madness. We have Tony Morgan the Bounty Hunter, Tommy Muldoon the Rookie Cop, Patrice Hathaway the Violinist, Luke Robinson the Dreamer, and Mandy Thompson the Researcher. In summary, Tommy is a guardian who gains resources when his assets are defeated or turns it into ammo on his rifle. Mandy is a seeker who can have a massive deck size and specialises in increasing the amount of cards searched or retrieved for both her and any other investigators at her location. Tony is a rogue who gets to place his bounty tokens onto enemies entering play. If he defeats them, he gets to turn these into resources. Luke is a mystic who may play an event card as if he were at a connecting location and engage with anyone there. Plus, he has his own portable pocket dimension that he carries around with him in a box, which he can teleport into until it runs out of charges. Patrice is a survivor who must discard her entire hand at the end of each turn and draw a new one. And like Jim, she has a special musical instrument. Her weakness is an enemy that will happily sit in her hand until she runs out of cards, then attack her. From her hand! Plenty of innovation here. Class-wise, you have a Guardian Survivor, a Survivor Mystic, a Mystic Seeker, a Seeker Rogue, / Mystic / Survivor. I was all going so well. Welcome to a new way to deck build with the introduction of variable second-class investigators. Both Mandy and new rogue Tony Morgan have a primary class as normal, but when you are building a deck, you must select a secondary faction from a pool of 3. Mandy can choose from Survivor, Rogue or Mystic, but definitely no Guardian. And Tony has a choice of Guardian, Seeker or Survivor, but definitely no Mystic. Wait, you can't leave just yet, it's not that simple. They are allowed to include up to 10 cards from their secondary class of level 0 or level 1, but, and this is a big but, they cannot include any assets from this secondary class, only skills and events. This is primarily to stop them hoovering up loads of static bonuses like those found on tarot cards and allies. This really is a different style of deck construction. On the face of things, it allows more flexibility to play a particular class of investigator the way you want to, or to tailor your deck to a specific role in multiplayer, particularly when doing challenge scenarios such as the Depths of Yoth. But depriving yourself of assets? That is a challenge. We are definitely looking forward to seeing what people come up with. Potentially adding 10 disposable events makes your deck hugely expensive, as the role of assets is to provide cost-effective support over time. Adding 10 skills would certainly do wonders for your cost curve, meaning late in campaigns you can splurge on those resource-draining power cards for your main class. But are there even 10 class-specific skills? More importantly, class-specific skills level 0 or 1. Yes, but barely. The Seekers have the least with 5 skill cards which pair up to 10. The Survivors have the most with 8 skills level 0 or 1. Notice how this is the secondary class for both Mandy and Tony. Events-wise, this is no problem, as there are more than 110 level 0 or 1 cards spread between the classes. But you don't have to choose either or. Your up to 10 cards from your secondary class can, and should, be a mix of skills and events, but no assets. Before we move on, note that it says you must select your secondary class at deck creation. This prohibits you from building a pure Seeker or pure Rogue deck and then choosing mid-campaign. You can still build with only main class cards, but you must select what your secondary class will be before you begin play, even if you never intend to include any cards outside your main class. Fee you! At least with the deck size, things should be pretty normal, right? 30 cards, 30 cards, 30 cards, 42? Wow, it looks like survivors have taken the crown from Joe Diamond of the Seekers, beating him by 2 cards. Although clearly 42 was just chosen as a gratuitous Douglas Adams homage. And oh my word, it looks like the Seekers have taken it back, with both a variable deck size and new maximum of 50 cards. But as with her secondary class, Mandy must choose her deck size before building her deck, and doesn't get to vary it between scenarios. Signature card wise, because Mandy has a flexible deck size, she gets to include 1, 2 or 3 copies of her signature bonus, depending on the size she chooses. Thankfully, this isn't the case with her weakness, however, but it does keep going back into her deck if it doesn't trigger. Tony Morgan gets 2 copies of his signature bonus, regardless of deck size, and this time matching pistols get a card each, as opposed to Jenny's Twin 45s or Joe Diamond's Detectives Colts 1911s, which are single cards with a double hand slot requirement. Not content with 2 bonus cards, Tony gets a 3rd, and like Preston, last cycle's Rogue, it is also a permanent starting in play. His weakness is a fairly standard enemy, thematic for a bounty hunter. Tommy is very plain and only has his famous Definitely Not a Shotgun, which now fires chunks of his dead friends, providing they don't get discarded by his weakness. Luke's Gatebox starts in play but is not a permanent, meaning it can be discarded, although not voluntarily, and unfortunately he can't take active desperation. His Gatebox can be used to move him to his happy place, providing you haven't accidentally shuffled it in with your scenario cards. His weakness moves him to his unhappy place, which is handily on the reverse. This is another great use of the bonded card mechanic, which looks to have plenty of mileage. Patrice has her violin, which is one of the world's few one-handed violins that gives out cards or resources once per turn. But it's her weakness which is really unique. With more keywords than you can shake a stick at, this is one of those ticking time bombs that can remain secretly in your hand, tempting you to try and discard it before you get a nasty interdimensional tentacle to the face. Moving on to the stats, things are definitely restrained, with everyone having 12 points of skills, except Patrice, who has 10. It's Power Creep City here, as we get 2 investigators with a skill of 5. Tony has the new highest combat value for the Rogue faction, and Mandy makes it the 3rd Seeker with an intellect of 5. Everyone gets 14 points of health and sanity, with things looking very symmetrical, with a 5-9 and a 9-5, plus a 6-8 and an 8-6. And Patrice has a middle-of-the-road 7-7. As usual, we will give you a slideshow so you can have a read for yourself. This is a cup of hot sweet tea. There's like 9 sugars in it and everything. Apparently it is good for shock. If you are someone that has a bit of a panic when there aren't exactly 2 of each player card in your Arkham LCG products, then you'll be needing a lot of these, because that whole 2 copies per card thing is officially dead. This is due to 2 new keywords. The first is bonded, which was previewed in the last Mythos pack of the Circle Undone. This links 2 named cards together. One of these will have the bonded keyword and is set aside starting out of play. The other doesn't have the bonded keyword but will reference any cards it is bonded to. This card goes into your deck as normal, obeying all deck building restrictions. It will have instructions when to bring the appropriate bonded cards into play. If it is a regular player card, it will have the no level marker, just like our story assets, signifying you must not use it when deck building. But the Dream Eaters introduces bonded weaknesses. These don't have convenient symbols to help you keep them separate, but they definitely aren't basic weaknesses because there is no symbol. Bonded cards shake up the maximum 2 copies per deck ruling. Yes, some of them have 2 copies of your regular card and 2 copies of the bonded card, but others have 1 copy of the summoning card and 3 copies of their bonded card, or 3 copies of the summoning card and a single bonded card. And hey, look at this! A single summoning card can be linked to several distinct bonded cards. Bagpuss here summons Larry, Curly and Moe, all of which are unique allies. And the summoning card will tell you what to do with your bonded cards, be it put them in your hand, into play, shuffle some into your deck, attach them to things, or what have you. Not content with sneaking in 3 copies of a card into your deck surreptitiously, with the bonded keyword, the designers have kicked you right in the low-hanging fruit and invented the myriad keyword. You may include up to 3 copies of any card with the myriad keyword in your deck. Not that you ever have to include all 3. 2 or just 1 is fine, depending on your deck space. Another cool thing about myriad is when you are purchasing a card with the myriad keyword, you get to purchase another 1 or 2 copies of that card for 0 XP. Note that all the new cards must be added to your deck together. You can't buy 1 copy now and then add the rest for free a couple of scenarios down the line. Okay, that is enough new rules. Let us move on to what cards you get. Each class gets 1 instance of a myriad, so 3 copies, and 1 instance of a bonded card for 4 additional cards. For example, a 1 and 3, 3 and 1, 2 and 2, or a saggy old cloth cat and friends. So, with each class getting 7 cards in total and no new neutrals, you are definitely being shortchanged. And technically, because of the bonded cards, each new class is actually only getting a mere 2 new cards. That's why your investigator's got so many signature cards to butter you up. With this being a beginner box, you would expect plenty of level 0 cards to welcome new players. Sadly, only 16 of your 30 cards are level 0. Technically 14 when you remove the bonded weakness. So if your whole collection is a single core, we wouldn't advise you start with this box, as there is only 1 new 0 level card per class. Let's take a closer look what you get. The Guardians now have a card that allows your investigator to transfer damage or horror from investigators you've played it on. And this might have been the inspiration for the myriad keyword, as you can now give your vow to all 3 other investigators in your 4-person game. They also have a bloodthirsty sword that needs to kill and kill again, lest it decide to turn on you. The Mystics get some mobility help with their own brand of flu powder, turning an all-purple all-the-time party into the Astral Cavalry. They also receive a player card that goes into the encounter deck. It provides a nice windfall when you draw it, and not just because it isn't another damn Ancient Evils. Handily enough, it has an encounter back. These designers think of everything. The Rogues get 2 resources and a card for free, and can chain it again and again, as well as an asset to retain these and other events to commit to future skill tests, providing you don't mind going on the run from your own personal jellyfish. The Survivors have a card which does nothing, until you play a 2nd copy when it does almost nothing, or a 3rd when it does barely something. But more clues are more clues, right? As well as an instant cat lady kit for, say, Wendy or Agnes, only one of which takes up an ally slot, and when Bagpuss leaves play, all her friends leave play, or are technically removed from the game. And they all have funky abilities kind of reminiscent of the Seeker artifacts that you had to identify. Speaking of which, there are no more of these this cycle. The Forgotten Age saw the last of them. But for those demanding instant gratification, you can perform a figurative upgrade mid-game by collecting 3 pendant fragments and cashing them in for a queen-size pendant. Although, check your warranty on something guaranteed to break after only 3 uses. Yet another first is a card you cannot play. No, not like a permanent, that would be sensible. This card goes into your deck as normal and only activates if you draw it as part of a search, like with the old Book of Lore. Looks like a Mandy specific card, really. We will leave you with a slideshow so you can scrutinise at your leisure. Did you spot the traits? Fortuitous Discovery is fortune traded, so Rex Murphy can't take it, although he isn't really short of additional clues, now is he? Solemn Vow is spirit traded because Calvin loves any excuse to suck up tokens. And fellow survivor Rita can include Easy Mark as it has the trick trait. No Mark, you have to wait till First Watch comes out in the Search for Kadath Mythos pack. The big winner, of course, is Ursula, as Relic is the flavour of the moment with 3 new relics, including probably the game's most traded card. If only she could get her hands on that gate box. And survivors take the crown of class with the most allies virtually overnight, although only one gets to curl up in your deck. It's probably not worth mentioning, but all 4 of the new enemy weaknesses are monster traded. I'll have you lot! There are 4 new basic weaknesses you can select from when deck building, and like those in The Forgotten Age, these are tied to a particular game mode. In this case, multiplayer. Handily, the campaign guide defines multiplayer as more than one investigator, not more than one player. So you solitary souls in Mater's basement can still include them if playing double-handed. These are fantastically designed and are intended to inconvenience the rest of your party more than you. We love anything that reminds you that you are playing a cooperative team game. And with your usual play group, these can be hilarious, especially when you fall asleep in the path of an oncoming hunter enemy. But take care when bringing these to events with people you don't know. Maybe ask the folks at your table if these are appropriate, or at least warn them ahead of time. With some events giving out rewards for success, you don't want to sour the mood by being responsible for a total party kill. Read the room, that's all we're saying. Starting at the beginning, we can see a mass of new rules information, possibly the most ever. Let's count it up. 1, 2, 3, and over the page, 4, 5, 6, 7. Some of these instructions we have seen before, like story cards and hidden cards, but the more new rules they introduce, the more of each campaign guide will be taken up summarizing them. Alert now looks to be a staple addition, having been in the last 2 campaigns, but there is definitely no Exile, so you shouldn't see any Exile keyworded player cards in this cycle, or Seal for that matter, unfortunately, but no Explore either. Woohoo! The biggest new entry is for Swarming, which creates multiple copies of an enemy in play, represented by player cards. We have seen a lot of things represented by player cards lately. On the rear page, you have a summary of the encounter set symbols, the credits, and less playtesters than the previous box, as well as a summary of what products follow on from this one. Something new is an FAQ. Remember how we used to have to put in an FAQ for the cards in our previous overview videos? Well, it looks like FFG have taken the hint and are giving more explanation as to how new investigators and mechanics work in practice, doing their best to head off any confusion before you start play, which is great. Speaking of FAQs, the official document has been updated to version 1.6, mostly because of Patrice Hathaway it seems. The section from the campaign guide is there for your convenience, plus additional information about how card draw occurs simultaneously. A few cards that would change your hand size have been modified to work with Patrice's investigator ability. We should see some new suggested deck lists arriving soon, incorporating the Dream Eater investigators, but nothing yet. The campaign log is up, however. Can you spot it? Well, there isn't a Dream Eaters PDF anywhere. But what's this? Dream Quest? Web of Dreams? That's right, your campaign guide contains 2 separate campaign logs. What sorcery is this? Well, as a famous seeker once said, when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. Every campaign to date has had a linear progression where you start with the first product and work your way to the last. The only shake-up came in the Dunwich Legacy, where you could play the 2 scenarios in the deluxe box in any order. The 2 campaigns in this box are designed to be run in parallel. How does it do this? Why, by making each half the size, of course. There are a pair of 4-part campaigns that are taking place concurrently. Handily, they are labelled Campaign A and Campaign B, with the scenarios being 1A, 2A, 3A and 4A. Or 1B, 2B, 3B, and finally, yes you guessed it, 4B. They do have more thematic names, but the simple A and B keeps things clear and concise. Put your fingers in your ears if you don't like spoilers, but the premise of the story is a group of investigators split into 2 parties. One goes into the dreamlands and one stays in the waking world, and they each play through events from their unique perspective, occasionally passing messages to each other. So you will need 2 sets of investigators. You can play either of these 4-part campaigns separately and self-contained, and the role of the other set of investigators should be handled by the campaign mechanics. You might only have a day to play games with your friends, and a full 8-part campaign could be too long. Or a 2-parter, say Guardians of the Abyss, would be too short. So 4 scenarios could be perfect. If you then meet up in future, you could tackle the other campaign, again, entirely separately, and neither of these instances would affect the other. A different mode of play is what they call the 8-part campaign, in that you play both campaigns with 2 separate groups of investigators, both under your control, and alternate between them. playing 1A for example, and then with your other investigators 1B. It doesn't make sense for story reasons for all the same investigators to do both parts at the same time. And you don't necessarily need to go AB, AB, AB every time. You can choose which order you tackle the letters, as long as you have finished scenarios 1A and 1B before you begin either 2A or 2B. In fact, it may make sense to stick with the investigators you have just played. So play 1A with one set of investigators, switch to 1B, and then go to 2B, as you already have the B investigators and their chaos bag ready to play. Which is another thing. These campaigns use mildly differing chaos bags. On each campaign log there is space for you to write in the details. Don't list your whole bag there, just any additional tokens you have added since setting up the bag at the start of the campaign. And of course the difficulty level you have chosen, which dictates the contents of the bag. There is no reason why you can't use different difficulty levels for each scenario either. No, of course it isn't. What are you, crazy? This is the most rules-dense campaign ever, because clearly making things more complicated is the way to making them better. There is yet another way of playing the campaign. This stems from the recent push to multi-group play seen in products like the Labyrinth of Lunacy or the Blob that Ate All the Things. Because this has two separate stories affecting two groups of people, there is no reason each campaign can't be played by a different group. This is great if you have a play group of 5 or more people that always get disappointed they can't play together. They won't get to sit at the same table, but it is surely more satisfying that the decisions in the parallel story are being made by real people and not a flowchart. And if you are running an event like, say, Arkham in Flames or Beneath the Waves, this could be a good way of taking care of 8 players for the day. The communication between groups is limited. You don't get to wander between tables and have a chat. You get some pre-scripted options to choose from in your scenario resolutions, and these get communicated to the other group by courier, like the owls in Harry Potter, but more feline. What you will need to do is wait for both groups to finish their version of a scenario and do the interlude together before proceeding. If you fancy this type of experience, you can always take to social media and look up other groups or players to have the experience with. If you're an entrenched solo player that doesn't attend events, this could be something you might want to try. If you're someone that gets annoyed by waiting the entire month for the next part of a story, then this may make you flip your lid. Each Mythos pack contains one scenario, and it will be either for the A or B campaign alternately. For example, Pack 1, the Search for Kadath, contains scenario 2A, 1A being the scenario in the deluxe box. And Pack 2, A Thousand Shapes of Horror, supplies scenario 2B. 1B is the other scenario in the Deluxe Expansion. Even if you're playing through the whole thing yourself, having 2 months between chapters of the same story, or having to alternate stories can be a lot to keep in mind. If there is any cycle that benefited from you waiting until it is complete before starting play, it's this one. But obviously that won't stop you. Ha! You wish! We swear there is a kitchen sink in here somewhere. Starting this cycle, if you order products direct from the FFG online store, not only will you get free US shipping, but a snazzy series of art cards. These are 5x7, which is the exact same size as the ones you got with the calendar, which is yay big for anyone dimensionally clueless. You received 8 if you pre-ordered the deluxe box, and 4 for each Mythos pack. Naturally, we asked if we could get some to show you, and naturally FFG told us to shove off. We were going to buy this ourselves, but not only is $82 plus import duty probably enough to buy 3 tickets to Arkham Nights UK, but if you look at the small print, there is no guarantee they will actually send you any product. While on the subject of art, FFG is well known for recycling its Arkham Files illustrations, which makes sense as this is the most expensive part of producing a card game like this. But they have started to modify it. As you can see, the hair, glasses, hand and clothing have all been changed. We did reach out to the artist for comment, but never received a reply. Which brings us finally to the end of our longest video ever. Oh no, it doesn't! Of course it doesn't. Literally the only thing the designers could do to cram in more innovation was to include a second chaos bag. So they did! We hope you kept your core box tokens and didn't upgrade to an app, as one of these scenarios has you build a second chaos bag and draw even more random tokens, because one chance horror generator isn't enough, right? Not even Paul Atreides had it this bad. And that's your lot. At this point, we don't care if there are any features we missed, as this video has taken up more than 70 hours of filming and editing, which is crazy for a channel that specialised in 5-minute content. If you want to show some love or help us get Blotto on some liquid courage, then please do pop along to our Patreon and maybe leave something in the tip jar. The end!